Come on in. Welcome to Focus Daily TV. On your way in, hit that like button. Subscribe. Support the channel. Hashtag Focus Daily TV. Today we're just going to get straight to it. We're going to start connecting these dots as far as the government structure goes within the corporate institution currently known as the United States of Corporate America. Excuse me. Let's go, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Put your discernment hats on. Let's go. What we're doing over here on Focus Daily TV is we're revealing biblical prophecy and how it applies right now, today, in the corporate state known as America, which is actually a corporate entity which was created by the Pope, the Crown in England. How exactly does all that connect? I'm glad you asked. Watch the video.
A third city-state was officially created in 1982. That city-state is called the District of Columbia and is located on 10 square...
Let me start that over. It's having a little difficulties.
A third city-state was officially created in 1982. That city-state is called the District of Columbia and is located on...
The true date was in the late 1800s. Excuse me. We're going to let it roll.
10 square miles of land in the heart of Washington. The District of Columbia flies its own flag and has its own independent constitution. Although geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City.
There we go. Straight and sweet and to the point. A direct connection between the Pope and the atrocities that occur right here in America through the so-called authority of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C.
The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars. One...
Like I'm saying, a coup took place in the late 1800s. Initially, a charter was given to the foreigners to allow them to do business, trade, work. The Bible speaks of the foreigners as being those slaves that were supposed to honor and respect their masters being the children of God. I'm just going to be direct with it. The copper-tone complected people known as Afro-Americans. They were to work in concert with us, but rather than continuing to follow what was laid out by God, the foreigners chose to usurp our throne, our royalty, and to replace themselves with us and to label us as black, dead, which means nothing in the law. It's time for us to be resurrected from death, but first, this truth must be known through the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Right here.
For each city-state in the 3-city empire. This corporate empire of 3 city-states controls the world economically through London's inner city, militarily through the District of Columbia, and
So there goes that military branch that we were speaking of yesterday. The military legislative democracy is just one branch in this evil triangle that has a stronghold not only over God's children, but also all in the world. As the Bible states, all will be deceived. At this point, all have become bondmen and bondwomen through sin, Social Security identification number.
Spiritually through the Vatican. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under a tyrannical Roman law known as Lex Fori, which bears no resemblance to the U.S. Constitution. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia.
Go ahead then, girl. Break it down for them.
known as Lex Fori, which bears no resemblance to the U.S. Constitution.
I could just sit back on this one.
When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution.
The treasonous act. They turned against God, specifically God's children. They turned against the kingdom, and that's as treasonous as it can get. But if you've been tuning in to Focus Daily TV, you know that the only reason that this was allowed to occur is because us as the children of God, we lost sight of his laws, his commandment, his word. We lean to depend on foreigners and foreign gods rather than what our sweet Father laid out for us. But don't worry, we're going to return back to it. But first we got to go through it. And we got to go through this truth and let it be known so the people can begin to awaken. I know it ain't many of y'all tuned in out there, but I know it's coming.
Constitution of the United States and outside of the best interests of American citizens.
Let me run that back for you one time.
Of Columbia,
she broke that down.
To the U.S. Constitution. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and outside of the best interests of American citizens.
True American citizens, organic, indigenous, native, whichever adjective you feel fine with, free men of America against us. The crafty council conspired against us. Uh-oh.
A sobering study of the signed treaties and charters between Britain and the United States exposes a shocking truth. The United States has always been, and still is, a British Crown colony.
That's interesting. King James, not a true representation of the brother, but it's all rising to the surface. King James Version, the Bible, it's all connected. The truth shall make you free. You just got to put on your thinking cap or your discernment hat, and it should all be apparent. Hit that like button while you're right there. Subscribe. Come on, man. I need to get these subscribers up. And hey, support the channel. Hashtag Focus Daily TV. Trying to make a living here.
James I was famous not for just changing the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the First Charter of Virginia in 1606. That charter granted America's British forefathers a...
Boom. That charter granted the foreigners the right to work. It's a nice video right here.
James I was famous not for just changing the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the First Charter of Virginia in 1606. That charter granted America's British forefathers a license to settle and colonize America. The charter also guaranteed that future kings and queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America stolen from the Indians.
Stolen from the Indians. Stolen from what was classified as Indians, but actually are Israel and Jerusalem, who were the true kings, Jameses, and land rulers. But all of a sudden it all switched. Now they're talking about the Vatican and London and whatnot. There we go, they just said it.
Settle and colonize America. The charter also guaranteed that future kings and queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America stolen from the Indians. After America declared its independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of 1783 was signed. That treaty specifically identifies the King of England as the Prince of the United States.
That's right. They're talking about us. We're the ones they did this to. It's all written within the pages of the good book known as the Bible. Open that up. Match this with that. Learn how to decipher the analogies. Here goes the key. Let's go.
States and contradicts the belief that America won the War of Independence. Although King George III of England gave up most of his claims over his American colonies, he kept his right to continue receiving payment for his business venture of colonizing America.
The Indian Trust Fund. Right there.
If America had really won the War of Independence, they would never have agreed to pay debts and reparations to the King of England. When Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. President was made subservient to the King of England.
This right here is when they stripped us of our nobility, our royalty. The original 13th. With the 13th, they crucified us, and with the 14th, they resurrected foreigners into our position.
The 13th Amendment is called the Title of Nobility Amendment and forbids U.S. presidents and their officials from using royal titles
We are the nobility.
like king or...
They was trying to usurp the government at that point and put themselves into our positions, and no longer would they allow the true organic people of this land to claim their throne.
to the King of England. When Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. President was made subservient to the King of England. The 13th Amendment is called the Title of Nobility Amendment and forbids U.S. presidents and their officials from using royal titles like king or prince or baron. For some mysterious reason, the 13th Amendment, which was ratified in 1810, no longer appears on current copies of the Constitution.
Ain't that a coincidence?
America's blood-soaked War of Independence against the British bankrupted America and turned its citizens into permanent debt slaves of the king. In the War of 1812, the British
This video rough.
torched and burned to the ground the White House and all U.S. government buildings and destroyed ratification records of the U.S. Constitution.
Burning of the records, the books, the burning of our legacy.
1 century later, a corrupt U.S. Congress committed the biggest theft in world history. They passed Paul Warburg's Federal Reserve Act in 1913,
Come that demonic fiat bullshit.
handing over America's gold and silver reserves and total control of America's economy to the Rothschild banksters. Most Americans still believe that the Fed or
The money changers.
Federal Reserve is the government. It is not. The Fed is a privately owned banking system whose majority Class A shareholders are the Rothschilds, Warburgs, Kuhn and Loeb, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Israel Seif, and the Lehman Brothers. This private banking cartel is the Fed and is never audited and never pays taxes. They print and design America's money, which displays their symbols of an Egyptian pyramid, a Masonic all-seeing eye, and the words "In God We Trust."
There we go. A great episode today. That was a nice video. Never seen it before, but hey, I told you. Until next time, hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. I'm out.